Hey Flyers, welcome back to the channel. On the workbench today, we got the 1220 millimeter FMS Ranger. This is a great beginner plane. You'll see it does come in a medium-sized box. The fuselage is divided into two parts which screw together. I do order an extra prop every time because you don't want to be on the field without it. This plane does come in 3 colors, so check the availability on the website for each when you're ordering, and you can get optional floats. If you're interested, I would say order them at the same time because there is no extra charge for shipping if you order it at the same time. The plane does come well packaged. You'll see the customer service card with the information in case you need to contact them. Here is the manual, which is very well laid out. There's not a lot to do, so it's not too hard to put together. Here is the inside of the box when it's opened up. You can see it's all protected very well. I had no damage. I always recommend you look at the bottom of the styrofoam. Occasionally manufacturers will tape in some additional parts underneath. In this case, there was nothing else. Here's the parts count. There's not that many parts. Here's what the Reflex Gyro V3 looks like. I'm not using it in this setup. I am using a Spectrum with Safe, which I'll show you later. But this is not too hard to program, and it comes pre-programmed. The plane does come with 2 wing struts, which are taped down, so you'll just have to remove some of that tape. The battery compartment is relatively spacious. I'm going to be using a 3S2200, and it balances well. This is the bag of bits that it comes with. You can see that there are going to be 2 sets of screws, a large and a small version. They do include 1 extra large screw and 1 extra small screw in case you goof up and drop it and can't find it, which is nice. The bag of bits also include the 2 small wrenches for each of the screws. I used my own hex wrench setup, but they do come with the wrenches, so you don't need to buy that separate. This is the aft section of the fuselage, which you're going to see has the push rod and that carbon spar. You're just going to insert those on the forward section of the fuselage where it's indicated. There will be 1 screw on the top and then 1 screw on the bottom to hold the aft section and the forward section together. Also pushing through the fuselage is going to be that 1 wire, so you will need a go-get-'em wire so that you can grab it and pull it through. The kit does not come with that, but I just use an old coat hanger. This is the spot in the fuselage under the wing where you're going to be connecting the push rod. I do recommend that you center the servos before you hook anything up. That way you know if there's any adjustments needed ahead of time. The push rods have these standard connections, and they can be adjusted to make sure the elevator and the rudder are in the right position. Here I'm using the hex wrench to tighten up the rod. Don't over tighten because it's not hard to strip these little grub screws. The next step is attaching the main gear. You see it can just fit on one way, so it's not hard to put on. It does attach with the screws that are in the kit. There is a plate that goes over it to hold it in place. That's easy to fit on. Once again, it can only go one way. And here's what it looks like when it's finished. The next step is attaching the tail feathers. You see I'm attaching the horizontal here. That does attach with 2 screws in the kit. The next step is to attach the push rod to the elevator. It does come in the bag of bits. Once again, you should center your servos first to make sure they are lined up correctly. The connection to the servo is pretty standard. You can twist it to make sure your elevator is level. The final major step here is connecting the 2 wing halves. You'll see there are 2 wires for the ailerons. Make sure they don't get pinched. Install the carbon rod first and make sure that slides through. Connect the halves. The bag of bits does include a Y cable, so attach those to the aileron cables, and you may want to use a piece of tape to make sure the connection is secure. Use the 2 screws included to connect the 2 wing halves together. Before you place the wing on the fuselage, you're going to want to install your receiver and get that all set up. Once that's done, the wing does fit nicely on the fuselage. There's a couple of these nubs that help secure it. There's also these thumb screws, which are used to actually hold the wing to the fuse. The thumb screws are a nice alternative to regular screws because they can be just twisted very easily, and then you can pop the wing off and turn it so it fits better in your car. The final step is attaching the wing struts. They do come attached to the wing from the factory, so all you're doing is placing them in these little slots on the fuselage and moving them to the side. You'll hear a click and you'll know they get in. And well, now you're ready to rock and roll. Your plane is all assembled. The next step would be to program your radio and make any changes there. You're going to see this great feature is the front wheel that is on a big spring. Essentially, the whole front strut is a big spring, so it's going to be nearly impossible to dork that in and break it. Here you can see what it looks like with the wing off and turned. This is a much more convenient way to carry things in your car. And now we're ready to get out in the field. There was some requests to have the entire Maiden flight shown rather than an edited version, so that's what I've done. Now I'm using a 3-cell 2200 pack. The manual does call for a smaller pack, but you can certainly fly with this 2200. Just make sure it balances. Use the manual settings for the CG when you first fly, and then you can adjust it according to your style. How's it feel? Good.
The top wings are smooth, huh?
Yeah. Get a little up trim. Just have to move the battery back. CG seems to be a little further back than what I marked. When I was flying, I noticed it was a little nose heavy, so I decided to cut the flight short a little bit and adjust the battery back. All right, let's land it and adjust the battery.
How long of flight time you think you'll get?
I'm going to land. I'm going to adjust the battery back a little bit. Seems to be, diving a little, so. It's like power off. It's just gliding in. Yeah. For the next flight, I did push the battery back about 3/4 of an inch, and the balance was much better. It was not diving the whole time. And I did end up getting a 5-minute flight time on the 2200 size pack. Now I'm not showing this flight in full, but I'm just showing the landing. You can see this spring action on the front strut does tend to absorb a lot of the bumps. On this flight, I tested the AS3X in safe and everything worked well. I had planned on showing the whole flight, but the camera was not focusing properly. Not too close to the trees. Here on the downwind, I'm preparing for landing and slowing the plane down. So that pretty much wraps it up for the Ranger. It does fly very steady. It's a very easy flyer. It is very good for a beginner. It does come in the 3 colors, has an optional float system, and there's a coupon code here at the end if you want to save 10% at FMS. That would help support the channel. But overall, I think you'll be very happy with this plane if you're a beginner.